everybody, and welcome to another episode of the REI Rocketfuel podcast. Today, I am joined by Derek Blades, the one, the only, none other than the man, the myth, the legend, the RTO king of in this corner, standing, I don't know how tall you are, weighing, I don't know how much you weigh, Derek, the RTO king Blades, Derek Cashflow Blades. Woo!
What's up, Lawton? Thanks for having me on. How are you?
Good, man. That was a hell of an intro. I wish.
Thanks for the subtle intro.
That's right. That's right. I mean, did I read the script right? Because I know you sent that over. That was one of your stipulations of being on the podcast is that I had to read that exact introduction. So
yeah, that was only half the intro, but we'll just leave it at that. That's okay.
Okay, cool.
That's
cool.
Short.
I'll make sure that you get your refund for the other half of it. All right, Derek. Well, thank you. All joking aside, for joining today on the podcast. I know you're a busy guy, waiting for all those checks to come in. Must have you just swamped during the day. So let's get started. Dive into your business. How did you get started? Why did you get started? Let's just get right into it.
Absolutely, man. So honestly, I bought a brand new sports car back in 2018. It was a Nissan 370Z, bright blue rims. It was sweet. And I pulled up, and my landlord came out of the property, and he said, "You are an idiot. You should have bought rental properties with that money. You could have paid for that car, with your rental income." And I had no idea anything about rental properties, so started doing research, and within a few months, I sold the car, got my cash back, and I went and bought my first rental property.
No way, really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And it was, I paid 35 grand.
Lived in from your landlord? Did you ever buy that one?
No, I didn't buy that one from him. That would be cool. Landlords, they're too cheap. They're too tight to sell you anything.
That, man, they want the moon and the stars.
Right, but what you can learn from them is more valuable than one property.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. I agree.
So yeah, I just bought one property and I fixed it up. Really had no business fixing it up. About burned the house down. I was trying to rewire this house, shooting sparks, trying to figure it out. And but brought in help, brought in some cousins, and finally got it done.
That's cool, man.
What I'll tell you, the real aha moment was when I got that first rent check, and my payments to my lender was $500, but I was collecting $800 a month from my tenant. I was like, okay, $300 a month. How many of these do I need to do what I want to do?
Starts to pencil out. It's like, okay, this is real. Let's pencil this out and get a game plan together of, if I need X amount of dollars of passive income to quit my job or, to buy that next house or, to buy the car, or, to do whatever the goal is set to do, that first one, that first proof of concept is like, okay, whoa, this is real. Yeah. That just happened. And this is going to happen every month. Okay, there's something here. I remember the same thing. So, so you got started because your landlord told you that you were a dumbass for buying your sports car.
Yeah.
Why did you heed the advice? Like, was he super successful? He was someone you looked up to, or you were just like, man, you're kind of right. I am kind of dumb for buying this car.
He was someone I looked up to. So he was actually a commercial landlord. So he had some commercial properties.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, I mean, he was just making the point that the car payment probably would have been, $600 a month. So
right.
For two rental houses, would have paid for that car, and then I could have moved on to something else.
Right.
And I was doing this hustle where we would buy and sell furniture on Facebook and on, that was back in the Craigslist day.
Yeah.
Before Facebook Marketplace. And it was kind of the same thing. I'd make a couple $100 per transaction.
Right.
But it's like if I stopped, there was no more money coming in.
Right.
And that's when the consistency of the rental property was really, it was a game changer. So I sold all the furniture, everything I had over there, sold all of that to go all in.
I didn't know that you were flipping furniture. I had no idea. That's cool.
Yeah.
Did you make some money at that, or it was just kind of a side hustle?
No, it was pretty good. So I actually
Really?
started doing that when I was like 16. I was in high school.
No shit.
And I got detention once for taking a Craigslist call during class.
But I mean, you over here flipping couches, probably making more than your teachers were. So,
100% was,
For
yeah.
sure. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. That's awesome. So I guess so from that first one to, I guess, what's your business look like today? Like 30,000 foot view, what does your real estate business look like today? Obviously, you've got more than that one rental that you started with. What
Yeah.
what does your business look like now, and what has the journey been to get there?
Yeah, so it's been a little over 5 years since I did that first rental property, and at first it was just, flip enough houses to make an income. So it
Yeah.
was, flip 3 houses a year that I could make 20,000 to flip on to make 60,000 a year, and that was enough to not
So
have
you
to go
didn't
get a
have
real
like a
job.
full-time job. Like you just went, so you bought your one rental and went full bore into real estate investing.
Yeah, yeah, I just
Damn,
went from
that's a
that one
big
rental.
jump. That's a big commitment. You must have
Yeah.
really made a shitload of money flipping couches, or you just lived very frugally. I assume you didn't have kids, wife, anything. It was just you.
Right, right. It was
Okay,
just
well that
me, and
makes it a
I
little
could
easier.
I could live on 40,000 a year, so I could flip 2 houses or 3 houses and be okay.
Right.
So that's really just what I had a cushion to where I had a few months to live on, and that's just what I focused on was just doing one flip at a time. Um,
That's
but yeah,
awesome.
the first year flipped 3 or 4 houses. The second year I flipped 5 or 6 houses, and then I really got into outbound marketing to find my own deals. So I do the
Yep.
postcards and the We Buy House signs and just anything. Look up wholesaling on YouTube. Just
Right.
I did everything, and the deals started coming in where I'd get like 3 or 4 a month,
Yeah.
but my bandwidth was to do like 4 or 5 a year. So I
Right.
started just uh so I didn't even know you could get referral fees. So I was like giving them to my extra deals to people. And
No.
then and then someone came to me and I had to pay him 10,000 for a deal. And I was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck, man? I'm
Right.
giving my deals
Right.
away
Right.
for
It's like
free.
an assignment fee. What are you talking about? Yeah. Oh shit. Okay.
So then I spent 2 years just pretty much doing the wholesaling.
Okay.
Um, and that helped build up a lot of cash. And then the
Yeah.
last 2 years, I bought about 85 rent to
Just in the
owns.
last 2 years.
Yeah.
About, so what was that, an even 40-ish a year, or was it like 20, 60?
No, it was about 40 a year.
So you're out here taking down 3, 4 rentals a month.
Yeah, one a week for the last 2 years.
Dang, man, that's kill. And are these ones that you like, or I guess I'm sure it's a mixed bag of both, but your bread and butter, do you like to buy them, they just need a make ready, or they're pretty turnkey, or do you like to buy them shitholes, do all the work, fix them up, force the appreciation, and improve your equity position, and then kind of refi? Like, are you running the Burr model, or are you just buying them straight, pretty much turnkey and just kicking? Because to be buying one a week and remodeling them is bananas.
It's a lot of rehab. It's a lot of construction going on.
God, no shit.
So yeah, I use hard money. So we have few hard money lenders,
Yeah.
and then yeah, fix them up and then refinance them, package them up, go to the bank with eight to 10 of them at a time, and just do a big refi.
Dang. That's
And
killable, man. Okay.
but
So your bread and butter is to buy them junk, need lots of work.
yeah, at least some work. Yeah, so my numbers are pretty much all in 80%, and I'll buy it. So if I can
Sure.
buy it, rehab it, closing costs, I budget 5,000 for closing costs. So it's worth 100 and it needs 10,000. I can pay 70,000 for it, put 10 in it, and I'll refi it later.
Right.
Uh, that's really I'm not running huge margins, but yeah, on
But
my
you're
owner finance,
but you're into these assets for nothing. Like
yeah,
actually nothing. So it's like, yeah, I mean, maybe you hit a home run every now and then where you've got a huge, $20,000, $30,000 refi where the debt service still makes sense and you can still cash flow. But worst case, you're in these deals for nothing or a couple $1,000s. And if you're in it for a couple $1,000s, I mean, your cash on that is insane, and you've got it back in 6 months.
yeah, absolutely.
Dang, dude.
Well,
Real
I will
estate
tell you,
mogul Derek Blades.
it's not all roses, man. I'll tell you what happened was buying that many properties and they were all dumps that you got sewer lines breaking. roofs leaking, furnaces are going to be bad. Pretty
Sure.
much everything in the house is going to have issues. So it usually takes a couple years for those properties to stabilize.
Yep.
So what I pretty much had to do to not go bankrupt, honestly, was start selling them on terms.
Yep.
Start selling them owner carry, and that was actually I was getting pretty stressed, and I met a guy at an REI meetup, an older guy that'd been in the business a long time, and I told him what was going on, and he suggested I try that. It suggested I put the liability of the repairs onto the buyer, to the end
Yep.
buyer, and but also let them build the equity. So it's
Yep.
a trade-off as they get the equity, but I don't have to do the repairs. But I've done 35 of those now. I've converted 85 of my properties over to contract for deeds,
Okay. Wow.
installment sales, and those cash flow great.
Yeah.
Um, the rental properties really don't cash flow much. You
Right.
build equity, but
Right. Yeah. So I mean, what's the I know, I mean, obviously now everybody else knows, but I knew before, you've got a lot of properties and some of them you RTO or contract for deed installment sale, and some of them you just have as, traditional straight up rentals. Obviously pros and cons to both. Do you see any value in keeping any of your single families as they come vacant, keeping them as traditional rentals, or are you looking to convert all of your SFRs to an owner carry installment sale?
I'm looking to convert everything to installment sale.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm kind of changing up the from the burst strategy to where like now what I'm doing is I'll buy a house for about 100 grand and I'll have a private lender come in and I pay them 8% interest and
Okay.
they fund the whole purchase.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll resell that $100,000 house to my end buyer for like we do the normal numbers like 135 is what I can sell that house for.
Okay.
And I'll sell it at like 9.5% interest.
Sure.
And so I'll just keep the difference between the 8 and the nine
Right.
and a half.
So you've got long term, like you've got a private lender against this at 8% long term. Like you've got people
Yeah,
that have it tied up with you.
right.
Oh, so you're
So
not
so
refinancing these out.
no, I quit doing it that way. Yeah.
Why'd you quit doing it that way? Just
Um,
out of curiosity. I mean, you are on a podcast.
no, absolutely. Well, what happens is you get into the hard money fees at 18% or whatever.
Yeah,
And then you got to do two closings. So you got to buy it, then you got to refi it. And
sure.
then you got to make sure that the refi comes in at value. So even though you know that house is worth 120, the bank may come in that day and maybe, oh, we don't really feel it's worth that
Right,
today.
it's
So now you
108. It's like, well, shit.
108. Yeah, so you got 20 grand left in the deal. Well, 20 grand goes quick when you go through 10 of them or one a week.
Yeah,
So at this way, my private lender knows exactly what we're paying for it. I know what we're getting financed at, and we're not getting stuck in deals that way.
that's solid. So you're a private investor, just like any other hard money deal. They've got a first position mortgage against it
Yeah,
with
first
their
position
cash.
mortgage.
So do you form a different entity where you partner with these guys on each one, or it's just a straight debt first position mortgage deal?
Yeah, so a lot of people are using like a self-directed IRA or a 401k type thing, so that way
Sure.
they're getting their returns are tax free and it goes
Yeah,
back into their retirement account.
yeah,
Um,
that's
but
nice.
no, yeah, it's good for them because stock market goes up and down. This is more a
Yeah,
stable
yeah,
eight. They know
oh
they're
yeah.
getting their
It's
eight.
8%. You're getting it.
Absolutely. But
Interesting. Awesome.
yeah, they're for their first position, and then we keep title in the installment sale. So
Sure.
technically, it hasn't sold yet. So we are still on top. We're the title holder
Right.
until that payment is paid off, and then it converts. But
That's awesome.
yeah,
Interesting. Okay. Have you have you run into any lenders in town? Because I know, so probably 5 or 6 years ago when I was first really getting started, and I was still heavy in the agent world. I was working with a couple investors that bought a ton of RTOs, contract for deeds, whatever the terminology behind it is, and they had big lines of credit. They were all good, and then when they went to permanent refinance, I think they had 7 or 8 that they had packaged up, rent to owned them, stabilized them, and then they went to the bank And it was a big to do. The bank was like, we don't really feel like, this, like, it's not a rental. They were trying to do like a due on sale because it was like it was a mess. So in 35 of them in the last X amount of years, have you run into any issues in the traditional banking world where they've had an issue with what you're doing?
No. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna say no. I think some bankers that aren't really versed in real estate, sort that type of lending, they can have some of an issue.
Yeah, it's kind of
Uh,
taboo. It's kind of a like, what are you doing with this loan? Like, what are you doing with our money kind of thing.
right. They may think that there's other claims to the property besides just you, but
Right. But there's not.
but there's not. And we have a couple bankers, like local banks, that are on board with the refi program.
Cool.
And then I also like using these companies like Lima One, Black Label, Kogo.
Yeah.
They're pretty much like funds. They don't care.
Right.
If it appraises and you're the title holder and it cash flows, they'll write them.
Right. That's awesome. You've had good luck with more institutional funds like that. I've never done a deal with any of those online ones. I've heard and I've kind of played around with it, but I guess just out of a lack of necessity, because I don't have 35 rent to owns, just out of a lack of necessity, I've never had to search far and wide for cash. But you've had good success with those online retailers like that.
They're good backup.
Yeah.
They're there. Yeah, they're good backup. They charge points. Their fees
Right.
are a little higher, but
Sure.
at the end of the day, you're into a deal for 100 grand and you're selling it for 135. You can afford to pay 5 grand in fees
Right.
for a
Right.
backup plan.
Yeah. Yeah. You've still got a good option there. So in all of the facets, in the 4 houses that you flip, into the 6 houses a year, into the wholesaling and the direct marketing and the traditional rentals and the maintenance issues and the everything you've learned, what's the biggest, or everything you've done, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned? What's the biggest mistake, I guess, is the more appointed question as well. So, two-parter: biggest lesson, biggest mistake. And if they're the same occurrence and the same thing, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we wanted to talk about how many mistakes I've made, that'd be like a
Biggest
three-part
one. Like, what's the
podcast.
one? I mean, everyone's got that one that's like, oh, that was the big one.
Well, I think buying too many single family houses all over town and getting spread too thin, and you own too many windows and too many furnaces and too many roofs. I mean, I think you got to play Monopoly. That's what analogy I've been using a lot lately, where you got to trade your houses in for hotels.
Yeah.
So you either got to trade up or you got to get the liability off of your name and into, you know, that's why I do the owner carriers, to get the liability of every little knickknack faucet in the thing off of my plate.
Sure.
But if I wasn't going to do the owner carry stuff, then I probably would have 1031'd them into like a nice strip center
You're
or
like,
something like
nice.
that. So
Oh, yeah.
that's definitely the biggest lesson I've learned, is not to scale with the little stuff, is to keep it tight, keep it together
Yeah.
so you can watch it.
Right. Yeah. Less of a shotgun approach, more of just a little more targeted there. So that's the biggest lesson. Is that also your biggest mistake? Was that you went the more shotgun route right out of the gate?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would have been better to maybe uh, do 10, package them up and sell them and buy one building, something
Yeah.
like that, or one warehouse building or something like that.
Well, the good news is you're young and you've
This
got
time.
85 doors and counting. So there's still time to, trade. There's still time to trade Boardwalk for Park Place. So
Someday.
there you
I'll be
go.
on the lot in status and have the
Oh,
$1 million.
holy. No, I wouldn't wish Lawton status on my worst enemy. So I guess in all of the different ones, and I assume I know the answer to this, but that's not why we're here. We're here for the audience. So talk to us about why did you get out of the flipping? Why did you get out of the wholesale that, generated, swings of cash. Why did you get out of that and just go into the buy and hold? Or did you? I mean, did you get completely out of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing a few flips right now. I think we have 4 flips kind
Yes.
of in different stages, which, flip by the time you put it under contract and fix it and then sell it and actually close, it can take what, 6 months maybe, something
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
in that range. So four flips is really not that many. Um, but I mean, one of them's in Eastboro. It's
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, so that's going to be probably the best flip we've ever done or I've ever done. So I don't know. I mean, if it's a big
You got
enough
to get me
margin, I'll
inside
take it.
that one, man. I love Eastboro. I just want to go see it.
Yeah, it's cool. Big circular house, big U-shaped house. It's a big courtyard thing in the back. It's cool.
That's bad to the bone.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. But
Where'd you come
I
across
don't
that
know.
one?
I bought that one from a wholesaler.
No way.
Yeah.
Locally?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dang, that's cool. How the hell am I not on that list? Good for you. Good work, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
Okay, so anyway, sorry.
but no, I mean, on the rent to own deal, I mean, it's kind of you kind of get the benefits of all of it. You get the down payment when
Right.
you owner finance it. You get 8,000 down. So that's pretty much that was my average assignment fee was 8,000.
Oh, okay.
So pretty much get that up front. You get the cash flow every month of a rental, and then you get to mark it up 30 grand, and no realtors, no appraisals, no inspections,
Right.
or very little on all that. So you kind of get all of those benefits. But I mean, the fix and flip's still good, but they're going to tax you at what, 30% or something? I
Right.
don't know, something really high. And then, man, the inspection reports kill me.
Yeah. They're brutal. They're brutal. I mean, especially in a market today. Well, I mean, the market of the last couple years where, buyers, even with all of the competition, buyers were still picky. And especially as an agent, I know it for a fact because I've seen both sides and have been on both sides of it. And I mean, I can tell you when a buyer's walking through a house that has very obviously is being sold as a flip, like an investor owns this house, they've come in, renovated it. It's very obvious. I mean, you want to talk about a magnifying glass. They are looking for something to ding you on. They are walking around looking at that house, fine tooth comb, way more than they would if it was grandma's house down the street that they happen to have remodeled. But when there's an investor involved and buyers know that they're going to be paying every month to line your pocket and my pocket as the investor, when we sell it to them, oh man, those inspection reports. I mean, two pages, 10, 15, 20 items, and they're all little stupid knick-knack bullshit. It's unreal. There's so many agents in town that let their buyers dictate how that goes. And you have to do a better job of coaching your buyers on that. Of like, we coach our buyers, or our agents coach their buyers at Pinnacle. We're dead set on this. Your repair request should not bleed over to the second page. We're talking about one page on, that last half of that first page. Put all your items in there. If it starts bleeding on the second page, you're trying to get out of this deal.
Yeah, just tell me you don't want to buy it.
Right. Just tell me you don't want to buy it. We'll go back, figure it out with a different buyer. But man, I will get off my soapbox now, but that infuriates me. But on the same token, before we even start swinging hammers, we've got it built into our rehab budget on the back end, what our average is over the last 60, 70 houses of this is how much we spend on average to fix all that little ticky-tack bullshit. So we're prepared for it. And then when it doesn't happen and we get an agent that actually knows what they're doing and is worth a damn and gives us a concise and legitimate, like as the seller or as the buyer, you should be asking me to fix the $1,000 things. You can do the $100 things.
Absolutely.
Don't be asking me to do the 5,000 and the 1,000 and the 700 and the 50 and the 10. It's like you're not. If you guys want to be the tenant, I will rent this house to you. If you guys want to be a tenant, I will rent this house to you. But if you want to own this house, this is the kind of shit that comes with home ownership, man. It irks me
If you
every
ever want
time
to know how to irk Lawton, just give him a repair request.
Seriously, if you want to ruin my day, email a 2-page repair request to derekblades@gmail.com.
You know what I shouldn't even say this on a recording, but what I started doing was, when we get to the very end and there's a few things that I can see obvious, like a cracked window or like a door that's stuck, I'll tell my guys, leave it, because they're going to want things fixed. So let's leave a couple things that we can go back and already know that we need to fix.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I would be lying if I said we didn't do the same thing. Like if there's something that's like, it's like, okay, the inspector's gonna catch it. They're gonna ask for it. Let's use that as a negotiating chit when it comes time to negotiate repairs. It's like, all right, we'll do item 9 and 10. We were going to do those items anyway, but we'll do them. You got me. So no, and you and I are not the only 2 people in town doing that. We're probably the only 2 in town stupid enough to talk about it on a recorded line. But every investor, every flipper in town is doing the exact same thing in some form or fashion or the other.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, the little stuff, you could go on forever doing the little stuff on little caulking or little things. So
like, where does it stop? Where does it stop? Anyway, God, whoo! I didn't take.
But I see all your flips. Your flips come out nice. So I mean, you guys probably shouldn't have too much, because you guys have a system down. Your
we really do.
Really good.
We've been. People ask all the time, like, who designs all your stuff? And it's like, look, man. I designed a house one time 6 years ago, and we have just rinsed and repeated that because the market loves it. It's the cream LVP and the neutral white walls, black accents, white subway tile, stainless steel appliance. Like, it's not a secret. I didn't invent it. It's like, it's nothing that we did. Like Sherwin-Williams and Lowe's, and like, they get all the credit. They made the colors and the LVP and everything that we get. We just aggregated it, put it all together in a nice little box with a bow on it, and said, someone come get a 30-year mortgage and buy this house, please. So,
well, I may have got on Realtor on one of your flips and made a SKU list of some stuff. So.
Hey, that is totally fine. What's funny is I sell our list. Oh,
do you?
Yeah, I have probably sold it 30 times to different people, maybe 30, probably a little strong, somewhere in the 20 to 30. We sell it for $99, and you can get
worth it.
The entire list of where we get the LVP, what it costs, the SKU number, the tile, the paint, literally everything that goes into every single one of our houses, the SKU, the dollar amount with tax, where to get it, how to get it, everything, all in one Excel sheet for $99. So if anybody listening, Derek, thank you for bringing this up. If anyone's listening and is curious about how to put all of that together, and you don't want to go and do what I did and walk through Home Depot, Lowe's, and Menards every day for 2 weeks, price matching and seeing who had the best deal by 2 cents, and then figuring out that, okay, that's where we're going to get our tile, and this is where we're going to get our vanities, and that's where we're going to get this, because we found the best deals. The dollar cost averaged it out and said, this is our package of renovation for flips and rentals. It's the same. It could be a $500 a month rental. It could be a $300,000 house. And the quality of the finishes don't change, because it's kind of a pain in the ass for us to downgrade everything and be like, well, we don't want to spend $70 on the kitchen faucet like we normally do. Where can we get a $50 one? It's like, for God's sakes, buy the $70 faucet, put it in there. Like, that doesn't matter. So use the code Derek at checkout on our Excel sheet for our material list, and you'll get, I don't know, $5 off or something, whatever. There you go.
If you use my code, I charge you an extra $5.
Bam. Every time you use the code Derek, you make sends $5 to Derek's new baby.
Thanks. Appreciate
there you
that.
go. There you go. Congrats on the new baby, by the way. It's the best.
It's exciting.
It's the best.
It is.
Are you sleeping at all?
Not enough. No, but
True that. I know how that feels. So with with everything in the market, with everything changing, with everything, I say changing, with everything telling us that they're changing, and the interest rates up and the inventory down and everything going on, and the level of uncertainty in the market kind of all the way around. How do you see your strategies changing in the next 6, 12, 18 months, or do you?
I think the market, I think it's a great time right now with the interest rates going up. I think it's going to slow down offers on properties, so our offers will start getting accepted a lot more. And especially having our own financing lined up and having private lenders, is we're going to be able to beat out all the bank finance people.
Sure.
And I think it'll be good. I think it'll slow the market down quite a bit.
Yeah, I think a big thing that, and I talked about this on the last podcast episode, a lot of, people in town, new investors, recent or first time home buyers, new agents in the last couple of years, really anybody getting into the market in any form or facet in the last 2 years, like that was so bananas and unsustainable that like the current state and position of the real estate market nationwide, but especially in the Midwest and especially in Wichita, that I can really speak on with authority, it's manufactured. Like if we're looking at the 10-year Treasury yield, which is what we've tied prime interest rates to for decades, we should still be low to mid fours. But they had to come in, they had to slow everything down, because houses trading for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 over ask consistently week over week all across the country is going to result in another 2008. It's going to result in everybody being upside down on their mortgage when prices correct and everybody owes $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 more than their house is freaking worth. So they had to step in, they had to raise rates, they had to cool it off. And yeah, it's like people are like, is the market crashing? No, the market's not crashing because you didn't get 10 offers all over ask in 2 hours on your listing. That's what a normal market looks like. You sell up, you list the house, get a few showings, get an offer, sometimes 2, and then you sell it from there. But like, that's just what a normal, steady, healthy, sustainable market looks like. And I'm excited for it because a lot of the investors that came in the last 2 years, they're on the sidelines because banks have tightened up on the commercial side as well as the residential side. So a lot of these newbie guys that flooded the market, not just in Wichita, Midwest, across the country, have flooded the market and made it super saturated and competitive when it comes to wholesaling, because that's easy to get into, or buying stuff at auction, buying stuff on the MLS, buying stuff from wholesalers for what you and I would say is too much. You bought that too high. We can't get deals anymore. Those guys are going to be on the sidelines. They can't get financing. And a lot of those houses, I think, are going to come back available on the market because those guys are going to be like, well, this math doesn't work. I guess I can't buy on the 1% rule at 13th and hydraulic. It's like, yeah, no shit. So I think a lot of those, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity in the next 12 to 18 months. And, the seasoned investor that's well positioned, well capitalized, and is ready to jump on those opportunities when they come is going to be able to to really make a lot of money, I think, in the next 12 to 18 months. I always say my biggest financial mistake was being in fourth grade in 2009 when I could have been buying real estate for pennies on the dollar. I don't think we're going to see that much opportunity where, it's 20, 30 cents on the dollar, but I do think there will be a lot of opportunity for 40, 50, 60 cents on the dollar consistently. And I think this is our generation's 08, 09.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of opportunity for local investor, for well-positioned, well-capitalized investors to take advantage of these opportunities that are going to be coming onto the market in the next 6, 12, 18 months.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people that are on ARMs are going to start to get called. You know, why would a bank write a loan at 4% when they can rewrite that loan at 8? So there's
Right.
going to be a lot of people that are way leveraged high that are probably going to get beat up. But yeah, I'm
Yep.
not really worried about it crashing because, you know, if it starts going to hell, then the feds can lower rates if they want and
Right.
kick it back off again. So
Right.
it's not like we're going into a crash. We're just going into a slowdown on purpose.
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, the 2008, 2009 was twofold. It was way more supply than there was true real market demand, and a shit ton of loans that should have never been written to people that had
yeah,
no ability to pay them. So those two in conjunction caused that. Neither one of those are even relatively close to being in play today. We still have, at least in the local Wichita market, you know, once again, where I can like actually speak to the actual stats, we still have like 3.8 times the supply that we do, or the demand that we do the supply. There's
wow,
still almost 4 buyers to every listing, like
wow,
pre-qualified, ready to write a contract buyers in hand, compared to the level of low inventory that's on the market. It's almost 4-to-1 still. So we still have a healthy supply and demand. Sellers are still kind of in control. It's probably the most balanced that I've ever seen it. Buyers have the ability to wait, you know, wait a week while this house is on the market, see if it sells, and then we'll go in and, you know, offer 10,000 below, you know, probably land at 5,000 below and get our cost paid. Whereas a year ago, you wait an hour, it's gone. So, but at the same time, there's also super low inventory, 4-to-1 supply and demand right now. So sellers are like, you know, we're kind of the only gig in town in this neighborhood, you know, for 250 grand. If there's a buyer out there for May schools at 250 grand, we're the only one in town. So it's about as balanced as I've seen it in seven years. I've never seen it this balanced. And that's
I
healthy.
didn't. Yeah, yeah, it's
Healthy.
healthy.
And it's sustainable. And that's really what you want as an investor and as a homeowner. Like,
Hmm.
unless you can time it just right, like some people did in the last couple of years, where they sold for 50,000 more than their house is worth, made out like bandits, turn around and locked in a 3.2 on their new house. Like, okay, hats off to you guys. You did it. You nailed it. You couldn't do that again if you tried. That was luck. That was timing. But you don't need to do it again. That's great. But you know, a lot of the rest of us, the lucky.
Yeah, the last several flips, probably 5 to 8 flips that I've done, have all been buyers from people who have sold their house in like California or Oregon or somewhere
Yeah.
like that, and they always tell me that 4 years ago we paid 500 grand for our house, and we just sold it for 800 grand, and in a couple years, and then they take that equity, you know, they put zero down when they bought it, and then they come here and they pay cash for my $300,000 flip.
Right.
Or I try to flip between 150 to 225 is
Yeah.
really
Same.
about all that I'll do.
Yeah.
So they
Except for
get to
Eastboro. Except for East. I mean, unless you're selling nothing for 225, which is,
nope,
let's say,
225 down maybe.
say if that's the case, I want to go see it right now. Let's wrap the
Yeah.
episode up. I'll go buy that real quick.
Well, I'm thinking about doing a refi on it and owner carrying it. I might
Dude,
owner carry that one.
dude, you should move
I've
into
never. I don't know. I live in Park City on like I got a big garage shop and stuff. I don't think I can
all
move
right.
down. I don't know. It's kind of tight down there, but it's cool.
Eastboro's a little too fancy for Derek Blades.
Too fancy. They'd probably HOA would be at my door kicking me out. They say no dirt bikes.
There you
No
go.
dirt bikes after
That's
10
right.
o'clock.
Say 20 miles an hour on the dirt bike, Derek. 20 miles an hour on the dirt
Can't
bike.
do it.
All right. So wrapping up, best piece of advice you have for the new investor. They've done a deal or two. They're looking for their next one, but they've already made the commitment that they've started. They've done something. They've taken action. Best piece of advice. And it can't be buy all your houses near each other because you already used that answer.
Right. No, that's fair. I mean, when I started wholesaling, there was a couple certain buyers that I could tell were really the power buyers,
Yeah.
and I just got up as close to them as I could. I didn't call anybody else. So I would say if you're just getting started, JV with somebody. I mean,
Yeah.
so you may make 20,000 on a flip and JV with somebody and have to give half of it or a part of it to your partner. But if they can bring financing and they can teach you, I mean, you can use that. You pay you pay half the deal once, and then you can go do it 1,000 more times.
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean,
my
chalk that
advice
up
would
as
be
tuition.
tuition. I would definitely say starting off is take a little discount and just get some education and do some deals with somebody. I mean, even commercial deals, I would, if I found a great commercial deal, I've only done a couple of them, I would give a big piece of equity to someone that's got a lot
Yeah.
of experience. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I would trade equity for education still. So
I
that's
mean,
my advice.
I always say that I would rather have, you know, 80% of a watermelon than 100% of the grape.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
absolutely.
you can find someone to JV with or, partner with long term on a deal like a commercial hold. I mean, you've just, I mean, as long as 1+1 = 10, then, your, the skill sets you bring to the table are complementary and not competitive with each other, or they're not the same. Yet, to me, that's a no brainer of a deal.
It helps when you go to do your next deal and you can show the bank, look at, you don't really have to tell them that you only had 10% equity
Right,
or
right,
half equity, but you can say, I was part of these 5 deals and they all made
right,
money.
right,
And then the bank will start giving you money. So
right. Yeah, builds that track record, builds your
builds a
credibility,
track record.
which staying bankable is, and or being bankable and staying bankable is a huge piece of our game. So,
Hmm.
okay, what about the investor who's on the fence? They've read all the books, they listen to this podcast, they're on the fence. What do you tell them?
Oh my gosh. That's a hard question. I really did pull the band-aid off and do it. I don't know
Yeah,
what to tell you.
I mean that there's nothing wrong with that answer because that's my answer. It's like, dude, at some point you've read as many books, like you're as ready as you'll be until you just go and do one and buy one and renovate it and like take the licks and the beatings, and like best case you break even on your first one, but everything you just learned to go into that next 2 and 5 and 10 and 20 and 100, the only way you're going to get to deal number 2 is to do deal number 1.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with your answer on that, because that's always my answer of like, oh, I don't really know how I want to get started. What advice do you have? Do it. Get started.
Yeah. Pick a strategy. Pick one strategy that you want to
Yeah.
really get good at.
Yeah.
So if you want to buy rentals, do that. But if you want to do fix and flips,
That.
But I see that a lot when I'm wholesaling. That's one of my biggest pet peeves about wholesaling is I'll send out a deal and people will just say, no, I don't want it. Well, what would you buy it at? Because every house has a number.
Right.
And you can tell that I got my main buyers list will make some offer on every property.
Yeah.
It may not be a great offer, but every property gets at least
Everything
somewhere. So I know I can go back to my sellers
Yeah.
and make it work. So I would say being able to run comps and know your exit strategy. That's probably advice for people who are on the fence.
Yeah, I mean, that's the advice I give to anybody that, talks to me about wholesaling, wants to get into it. It's like, okay, it seems easy and it's low barrier to entry. Like, you don't need a license, you don't have to own anything, no money, no credit, all the things, yada yada. But when you come into it and you're just one man and you're driving for dollars and you're cold calling, like you have to work so hard to get that one deal. And then when you do get it, you don't know how to evaluate it. You don't know anything about it. So that's when I think if you don't have the means or the drive or the time to buy a rental or a fix and flip of your own, to learn what things cost, how long things take, to really understand at least a foundation of who you're selling this to and what they're going to do with it. If you don't have the time or the circumstances in which you can do that, JV with a wholesaler on your first handful of deals. We do it all the time. We do it all the time where, newbies are like, hey, we have this house. We're having a really hard time moving it at 65. And I'm like, oh, I could sell that thing for 72 this afternoon. Like, I know exactly where that's at, what it would cost. I know someone that owns 5 others over there that we've sold them. Like, we can do this deal. And I'll show and educate, like, here's why it's worth 72 to this guy, because he's gonna Section 8 it, and here's what that means, and he owns 5 others over there, and here's why that's good. Like, there's so many nuances and so many different avenues, a million different directions in real estate investing, that it's impossible to read all the books and listen to all the podcasts and just know it all before you take the jump. There's just so much that you just learn on the job, on the fly, as you go.
Yep. Just lock it up and go get offers.
No doubt. Like, lock that up. You control the property now. It's yours. It's yours. No, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you very much again for coming on today. I know you're a busy guy. You just had your event last week. I'm really, really pissed that I couldn't make it, but I had some fires to put out. So I am excited to see you on Saturday speaking at our event on the panel. I'm really excited, and I know when people in the audience locally in Wichita see you and everybody else that's on that panel, they're going to get a lot of value out of it. It's going to be awesome, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. It'll be good.
It's gonna be sweet. Well, Derek, thank you, man.
Thanks.
I'll see you out there.
Thanks. See ya.
Yep. See you, man.